Welcome to the Expedition Log Analysis Feature Module 4 video. In this video, we will go through how you can import traffic logs into Expedition. Depending on your platform and your log storage strategy, you could choose one out of the listed 4 methods. They are Method 1, Schedule log export from Next-Gen Firewall. Method 2, manually export logs from Monitor. Method 3, Expedition Assist Log Server, and Method 4, importing from Splunk. We will go over each method more details in the following minutes. Method 1, Schedule log export from Next-Gen Firewall. In this method, we need to enable the Schedule log export feature in the firewalls. And after the feature is enabled, we will have firewall traffic logs auto-forwarded to Expedition server once per day based on the schedule we set. Let's go over the instruction on how to do it. Here I will be using a PA220 as a demo. After you log into the firewall, navigate to Device, Schedule log export. Click on Add to add a new Schedule log export configuration. Give it a name. Select the time of the day you want the log forwarding from the firewall to the Expedition. Select SCP as a protocol. Enter the hostname or IP address of the Expedition. Specify the path where you want the firewall logs to be stored in Expedition. Please make sure you have enough hard drive space in the specified path. Enter the login credential to Expedition here. Please make sure the account you use has the right permission to the specified folder. After we save the configuration, we can go in and click on Test SCP Connection to test the connectivity. And you see here the connection is successful. Please remember to commit the changes to the firewall. After a successful schedule log export, we can log into the Expedition CLI, go to /PA logs folder, and make sure the traffic logs has been successfully exported from firewall to Expedition. Method 2, manually export logs from Monitor tab. In this method, the use case is when you have only few security policies that needs to be enabled for machine learning or rule enrichment during specific time, and you do not want to have the whole firewall logs sent to Expedition. You can choose this method to manually download traffic logs from the firewall or Panorama Monitor tab and manually transfer the CSV file over to the Expedition server. Let's go over the details on how to do it. For example, here I have a security rule called Allow All Out. I would like to enable for machine learning or rule enrichment later, so I will click on the log viewer, and this will take me to the Monitor tabs and showing me all the traffic logs matching these security rules. Then I can click on the right upper button, says Export to CSV format. This will export the traffic logs in the CSV format, and it will be downloaded to local machine. So after it downloaded to the local machine, I usually rename the file. After the file is renamed, you can then transfer the CSV file to Expedition. We could use SCP command like below to transfer the CSV file over to Expedition. Please replace the file name with your file name and the IP address with your Expedition IP. After you successfully transfer the file over using the SCP command, we can then SSH to the Expedition CLI, go to the PA logs folder, and we should see the file you just copied is there. Method 3, Expedition Assist Log Server. I will show you how to transform Expedition server a syslog server and add Expedition in syslog server profile, also enable log forwarding profile on security policies. Let's go over the details. The first step is make Expedition as a syslog server. Begin by SSH to the Expedition server. Enter the login credential and IP address here. After successfully logging, let's go to the /var/www/html/os/r/syslog folder. In this folder, there are 3 sample files we can use to modify to make our syslog server working. Assume we want our syslog server running on the default UDP port. We will copy the rsyslog.default-udp file over to the /etc folder and override the rsyslog.conf first. Then we will cd to the etc folder and edit the rsyslog.conf by doing a sudo nano rsyslog.conf. And first, we want to make sure the UDP server port is running on the 514, and the file owner is www-data. The group is belong to Expedition. Also, we would like to add the firewall IP address in the allow sender list. In the case here, my firewall IP is 10.0.0.1. Also in the template, we want to make sure the folder is pointing to PA logs. After modify the file, we will do a Ctrl-O and Ctrl-X to save the file. And we will verify one more time on the rsyslog.conf. Make sure the port is correct and we adding the firewall IP address in the sender list, and then we can do a sudo reboot to reboot the VM. Re-logging to the VM after reboot, we will issue sudo service rsyslog status to check on the status of the syslog server. And if the service is not up, you will issue sudo service rsyslog stop and restart and make sure the status is active. Next step, we will log into either Panorama or Firewall to configure syslog server profile. In the example here, my firewall is managed by Panorama, so I'll log into Panorama GUI, navigate to Template that the firewall assign, and go to Server Profiles, Syslog, click on Add to add a syslog server profile. And you will put a name and give an IP address of the Expedition server. Protocol is UDP and port is 514, and click on OK. Then navigate to the device group the file will belong to. Go to Objects, Log Forwarding, select the log forwarding profile you want to add the syslog server. Double click going to the configuration. Add Expedition in the syslog field and click OK. Last thing we want to verify is the security policy is associated with the correct log forwarding profile. So we will go to the security policy, select action, and make sure the log forwarding profile is associated with the log profile we just configured. And please remember to do a commit and push to the firewall that you want to do the machine learning and rule enrichment. The final step is verifying the Expedition is receiving the syslog from the firewalls. So we will SSH to the Expedition CLI and go to the PA logs folder. As you see here, we have a subfolder that's created based on the firewall IP address. And the traffic logs are actually stored underneath this subfolder. Method 4. Importing from Splunk. Use case is you are sending firewall traffic logs to Splunk, and you would like to import the firewall traffic logs from Splunk directly. First of all, make sure that your Splunk instance has the Palo Networks app for Splunk installed, as this will provide the required schema to query Palo Networks traffic logs. In this method, we will query and retrieve firewall traffic logs from Splunk directly. Let's go over the details on how to do it. Begin by logging to the Expedition GUI. Click on Devices tab. Show all devices. Select the device you want to enable for machine learning or rule enrichment. Click on M-Learning tab. Click on the Query Logs from Splunk button. Please contact your Splunk admin for the required settings to be able to query your Splunk via API. Define the period of the time that traffic you want to query. To generate the queries, click on the Prepare Queries button. This will create one query per day, and those will be presented in the bottom grid. At this point, we can fire the query to Splunk by clicking on the Retrieve Traffic Logs button. The query will be submitted to Splunk, and Expedition will be monitoring the query status to download the results once Splunk has reported the query as completed. Depending on your Splunk settings and the number of queries submitted, some of them may be in a queue. Once the query has been completed in Splunk and Expedition has downloaded the results, you will be seeing the status is now showing completed. The final step will be verifying the traffic logs has been retrieved from Splunk. We will SSH to Expedition, and underneath the PA logs folder here, we see the traffic log has been successfully retrieved. You have completed Module 4. Please move on to the next module. Thank you for watching.